Churchward's earliest years as an engineering apprentice were spent on broad-gauge railways. No mainline broad-gauge locomotives have survived, but this magnificent photograph of Lord of the Isles enables the scale and detail of Brunel's broad gauge to be appreciated. The need for the Great Western to standardize its track gauge in 1892 almost exhausted the company's finances. However, in spite of financial limitations, William Dean, under whom Churchward worked, began to successfully modernize the locomotive fleet. In 1896, Churchward became the manager of Swindon Works and also Dean's assistant. As Dean was in failing health, Churchward took an increasingly important role. His ideas on boiler design began to appear on Dean double-framed 440s. In the City class, these changes were obvious. The double frames were very much from the Dean era, but the tapered boiler was pure Churchward. The City was a highly successful locomotive, so successful that in 1904, City of Truro, pictured here, was the first engine to achieve 100 miles per hour. Churchward standardized on a range of engines, which all shared common design features. Two 18 by 30-inch outside cylinders, which were standard castings, a range of tapered boilers with a Belpaire firebox, a cylindrical smoke box, bar frames ahead of the cylinders, plain connecting rods, low-degree superheat, ample bearings, and long-travel piston valves using inside Stephenson's link motion. Perhaps the most famous of this range was the Saint class, which was hugely successful and astonishingly economical. For high-speed passenger work, Churchward developed a four-cylinder divided drive engine, the Star class. The design used inside Volschart's valve gear, but shared boilers and many other components with the two-cylindered engines. Many of Churchward's designs were so successful that they lasted until the end of steam, like the snappy 43XX class Mogul 260s, one of the very first truly mixed-traffic engines, equally at home on freight or passenger trains. For heavy freight, the 28XX class 280 used the same cylinders but smaller wheels and a bigger boiler to produce an engine capable of hauling 1,000-ton trains, but also able to achieve speeds of well over 50 miles per hour, a combination that no other contemporary heavy freight engine could match. For short-haul heavy freight work, the 42XX 280 tank engine version was built from the standard component set. Here on the Great Central, it shows its capability for speed. The same principles applied to the Big Prairie 262 tank engines, which have many similarities to the 43XX. They were excellent suburban and longer-haul branch passenger and freight engines. The Great Western had many lengthy rural branch lines, such as the Severn Valley Railway, and the introduction of the smaller cylindered 45XX 262 tank engines revolutionized their working. These engines were equally at home on freight or passenger trains and suburban operations, where their fierce acceleration was much appreciated. Churchward's designs were so good that his successors, Collett and Hawkesworth, retained his essential features in their own later designs right through to the end of steam. In 1922, Charles Collett succeeded Churchward as CME of the Great Western and immediately recognized the need for increased power. In 1924, for heavy mixed traffic duties, he rebuilt number 2925 St. Martin with smaller wheels and a side window cab to produce the 49XX Hall class. Here, Burton Agnes Hall, updated by Collett's successor Hawkesworth, shows the typical Churchward design hallmarks, performing at speeds of up to 85 miles per hour that would only have been attainable by express engines of other railways. Collett also took some members of the 43XX class and used their components to produce the new Manor class for lighter mixed traffic work. Here, Bradley Manor and a 43XX worked double-headed, clearly illustrating the similarities between the two. Manors performed excellently on lighter trains, but for express passenger trains, Collett's Castle class of 1923, a direct enlargement of the Star class, was supreme. In 1923, castles would outpull and out-accelerate anything else in Britain, as Nunney Castle shows leaving Oxford. Collett went one better in 1927 with the ultimate GWR development of the Churchward four-cylinder concept, the King class. 6024 King Edward I is seen here climbing White Ball Bank. Kings were excellent load haulers. In 1953, number 6001 pulled a 25-coach, 800-ton test train at a speed of 70 miles per hour. Other railways were keen to learn Swindon's secrets. Richard Maunsell, CME of the South Eastern and later the Southern Railway, recruited assistants from Swindon. The results were the highly successful Maunsell Moguls, like this U-Class, which with its Belpaire firebox, tapered boiler and water top feed has an obvious Swindon parentage. In 1932, William Stanier was recruited from Swindon to revolutionise locomotive practice on the LMS using Churchward's principles. The Black 5, shown here on the Great Central, was a highly successful development of the St. Hall design. After the locomotive exchanges of 1925, even Nigel Gresley of the LNER took on board some of Churchward's ideas. His A3, A4 and V2 designs all incorporated long travel valves and other Churchward principles. This enabled the V2 design to excel at mixed traffic work, whilst being able to time heavy expresses economically. Having inspired and instructed locomotive designers for more than half a century, Churchward's design ideas saw steam out in a blaze of glory.